Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us to celebrate Global Accessibility Awareness Day. My name is Peyton Haley, and I am the Accessible Communications Coordinator at Oklahoma AbleTech, and I will be your moderator today. Lissa, our Digital Accessibility Program Manager, will be handling the chat, so if you see her dropping things in there, those will be some really good resources for you guys, and we'll share them with you after the webinar as well. So I'll go ahead and introduce our panel of staff experts this morning, which includes Adam Thiel, who is our Digital Accessibility Coordinator, Avery Lucas, our Speech Pathologist, Kim Young, our Device Reutilization Program Specialist, Louise Rulford, an Assistive Technology Specialist, and Stephanie Hesser, our Financial Loan Program Specialist. So how this will work is I've taken all of the questions from the registration form that you guys filled out and broken them out into categories. So I will read a question, and then the panelist that specializes in that area will answer it and give us some more information. If at any point during this webinar you have additional questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and that will make sure that I can work them in as we have time. Okay, so first things first, Louise, what is assistive technology?
Assistive technology are devices that can help individuals with ease of access and activities of daily living. Assistive technology is for anybody. Assistive technology can be anything from hearing aids to a webcam to a screen reader. It's a really wide variety of items, but the general thing is that it helps people in their daily life.
Perfect. All right, Adam, what is web accessibility, and what do you recommend as a starting point for someone just beginning their journey?
Sure. So just like Louise brought up with assistive technology being kind of like physical devices that allow people to do things that they normally couldn't do or have trouble doing. Web accessibility or digital accessibility does the same thing for digital content and like for the internet and that kind of thing. It's actually it's jokingly sometimes referred to as the ramps of the internet, right? It helps people who use assistive technology. It lets the assistive technology actually interface with the internet and digital spaces. As far as things to kind of get started with, accessibility can be daunting, and so it's a deep pool of things. So don't jump in the deep end, right? Like take your time, go slow. There's a lot of free resources available. We have some available, but there's also just the accessibility space is really a collaborative environment online. And so there's a lot of free resources and webinars and trainings and that kind of thing available on the web. As far as like kind of specific things to kind of get started with, I would look for things like heading structure, adding alt text to any images, and things like color contrast. Those are kind of three easy to get into concepts, and we can help explain more of what that means if you have any questions about that.
Very good. Okay, Kim, can you tell us a little bit about the device reutilization program and how someone qualifies?
Yeah, absolutely. So the AbleTech device reutilization program, we take in donated durable medical equipment and medical supplies, and then we loan it back out for free. It's available to any Oklahoman in need. We don't have an approval or denial process at all. We just need an application on file. And then, so anyone is qualified. We additionally have 4 grant partnerships. We partner with 3 local area-wide agencies on aging. for members 55 and over in the Tulsa area with INCOG, Shawnee area with COED, and southeastern Oklahoma Choctaw area with PEDO. With these AAA partnerships, we're able to purchase new durable medical equipment and loan it back out. And then we also have a partnership with Oklahoma Assistive Technology Foundation to help members 65 and older in Oklahoma, Canadian, and Cleveland counties. And that is just another way for us to purchase new medical equipment and supplies for them. Yeah, so those grant partnerships kind of allow us to purchase equipment rather than rely on the donated inventory that we for the lease program.
Awesome, thank you. And that was a perfect segue, I think, into Stephanie telling us a little bit about the financial loan program and what types of assistive technology or durable medical equipment that you approve loans for.
Sure. We really approve loans for any kind of assistive technology, anything a person would need just to live their daily lives. We do hearing aids, modified vehicles. We've even done Apple Watches and iPhones for people that have medical conditions that need monitoring for that kind of thing. So really, a wide variety of things.
Perfect. And what are the loan terms typically?
Sure. We do have flexible lending. You know, being a nonprofit, we're able to be a little more flexible with our loan underwriting. We provide 5% interest. There is no loan application fee. We require a score of over 500, and when we look at your credit history, we're looking for just a pretty solid history of repayment. But we also realize that if someone's talking to us, there could have been bumps in the road for them. And we do also have a microloan program for individuals that need loans for under $2,000, and we're even more flexible with our loan and underwriting requirements for that.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, jumping into some specific assistive technology examples. This one is kind of for Avery and Louise. Are there any recommendations that you have of either existing or new dyslexia AT?
So we have a few different reader pins. So we have a C-Pen reader pin and an OrCam reader pin, and they will allow users to read text. The text is read aloud to them on a piece of paper or in a textbook. So it's not for text on a screen. The OrCam, I believe, can do a screenshot, but the C-Pen is only for text on a paper. So we have reader pens. We also have a few dyslexia keyboards. So we have a physical dyslexia keyboard that has different colored keys for our consonants and for our vowels, and then for our function keys as well. And then we do have a dyslexia keyboard app that goes on the iPad. You can check out an iPad from us, and we can loan the app to you as well. And it provides some supports for dyslexia that are more in depth than the keyboard that you just find on an iPad. For just learning for literacy, we have the beginning word builder, which can help individuals. It has color coded for consonants and vowels and help build out their words and learn the sounds there. We have some reading rods. So these are little blocks that allow users to break words apart. So they have different colored pieces for our prefixes, for our suffixes and everything. So that can be great for individuals to help them read as well. We have some tools that help individuals with writing letters. So we have our lowercase and uppercase tracing cards for letters. We have those for numbers as well. And then we do have the finger focus highlighter, which is a little tool that goes on your finger, and individuals can use it to read text in a textbook, or they could even do it on a screen as well, but it just helps them highlight it. We do have some nice fun alphabet robots as well. So these are fun for our young learners, but they're robots that break out into different letter shapes. So that can be really great as they're learning to spell and learning their letters. Not in our library because they're software, Chrome extensions, or subscriptions, but are really great supports for dyslexia or individuals with dyslexia. Immersive Reader is a free software that reads text aloud for digital text. It also has a picture dictionary, can break words apart. You can do different lines and spacings, but that is a really great tool. It's available as a Chrome extension. It's also available on different platforms such as Microsoft Word. It's already built in. We have some Chrome extensions that are great that you can just download for free. HelperBird accessibility and dyslexia software. It provides some specific supports for dyslexia. And then another one of my favorites is called Postlight Reader. That allows you to take advertisements away on a digital screen, and they can just read the text. So those are just a few that we have in our library, and then also free Chrome extensions or software that you can access.
Yeah, that was perfect. I actually talked with Avery about this earlier, and we were kind of talking about the exact same things. So like she said, we have the dyslexia keyboards, the dyslexia keyboard app from Got It, which a big thing with that is the word prediction. That helps kind of get the ball going whenever you're typing things out. And then another program is the Microsoft Speech to Text that can be helpful for maybe older students who are like working on typing papers out, things like that. And then we do have CPEN readers in our inventory. We have dictionary pen readers made by CPEN and exam readers for whenever you are taking a test. And CPEN also came out with their CPEN Reader 2, which is supposed to be a big improvement from the first CPEN. So hopefully we'll get that one soon too.
Awesome. Okay, Adam, does making my website accessible mean it's going to be ugly now?
Everybody say it with me. No. That's a big misconception. People hear that accessibility tends to kind of limit some of your design choices. And while that's true in some areas, that's not true across the board. And you really can make anything, make your website accessible and still make it look great. We have a lot of different techniques that we teach people how to do that handles that kind of thing. There are, the biggest area that I kind of see this in typically is with color contrast. People, especially kind of graphic designers or web developers these days, are taught that certain color combinations are okay. And when you look at them for accessibility purposes, they don't have enough contrast to where people can really perceive the differences in those colors. And so, it's, I like to say that restrictions breed creativity, right? And accessibility really just kind of helps. It helps everybody, right? Like if you have things on your webpage that nobody can see, then they might as well not be there, right? So yeah, that's a long-winded answer. I tend to ramble, but the answer is no.
Awesome. Okay, Kim. When we are searching for equipment through the device reutilization search option, how do we search for specialized equipment like pediatrics or bariatrics?
Yeah, so there are options on our online inventory. Um, I am going to pull up the online application real quick. I don't look at the public side too often, but you can break it down by category, by device type, and you can even just search for specifically what you're looking for. But we do categorize it by what type of equipment it is and what area, kind of what area of disability we're working with. So like mobility, seating and positioning, or are you needing hearing assistive technology? We break it down by category on the website.
All right, awesome. And then follow up to that one, what type of pediatric equipment is typically available in the reutilization inventory?
Yeah, so we do offer pediatric equipment. We don't often get it donated very frequently, but we do have some pediatric standers and gait trainers, pediatric posterior walkers, usually walkers and standers we have available for pediatric patients.
So thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Stephanie, will you tell us just a little bit more about loan terms and options?
Sure. We try to offer terms that will meet people where they're at. If we were to do a home modification loan, so if you need accessibility items added to your bathroom, a remodel, or things in your kitchen, we can do home modification loans up to 7 years. And again, still 5%. It doesn't matter if it's a vehicle, a home modification, a hearing aid, an Apple Watch, or what your credit looks like. All of our loans, when they're approved, they're 5% interest, which these days is really a pretty good deal. And so with our regular loans, we offer up to 5 years. And then our micro loans go up to 3 years. And we work with people on their budget. If they're having trouble fitting a payment into their budget, we can do some financial counseling. We can also offer some advice and resources where if you can't qualify for our loan, if your credit score is too low, or if you're having trouble meeting your financial obligations currently, we can offer you some materials and coaching to help you get to that point where you could qualify for a loan with us.
So, okay, Louise, can I buy a device that I borrow from you from AbleTech?
You cannot buy devices from AbleTech. So the purpose of our program is solely to trial them. When I say our program, I'm referring to the short-term device loan program. It is short-term. But however, whenever you're requesting them online, we do list the manufacturer, where we sell it from, or you can simply call or email us and we'll let you know. I'll send you the link myself. We'll tell you what the prices are. If necessary, we'll send you to Stephanie to work on financial loans and things like that. So we are not a retailer. We don't sell any of them. We just let you borrow it. Think of us as like a lending library, but we can direct you to the right people.
And how long can I borrow a device for?
It depends on the device. So our typical loan program loan period time is 42 days or 6 weeks, give or take, depending on the situation. Every once in a while, we can admit extensions. So the max extension time is going to be 2 weeks. So the longest that any one person would have a device is 8 weeks. It's kind of not very common for someone to have something for that long because we have so many clients that need these devices. If it is a high-tech device, so like one of the speech communication devices, a Tobii Dynavox or a Accent, those are going to be 5-week loans or 35 days. If it's a toy or it falls under the recreation category, then it's going to be a 30-day loan.
Awesome. Okay, Avery. How can I get an appointment with an SLP? And do SLPs help us find out what type of devices would work best for specific situations?
Yes. So you would get an appointment with your SLP in your area. If it's school age individual, they might have an SLP at school. However, there might be private practices in your area. For adults, just the same, there might be private practices in your area, or there might be speech pathologists that they're seeing out in outpatient facility with a hospital, inpatient, etc. If you're looking for one in a specific area, we do have partners throughout the state. So I can give you those resources. You can reach out to me, or if they're not partners in the area, I can help you try to find one in the area as well. Speech pathologist, it is in our scope of practice to do AAC evaluations and help individuals. However, the scope of practice for SLPs is very broad. So some SLPs might need additional help or support, and Able Tech can provide that whenever they need it. If you're wanting to set up a consultation with Able Tech, I'm the SLP, so you can fill out the consultation form. That helps us get more information about the individual that you're trying to get a speech communication device with. Usually that consultation leads into a demonstration. It can be in person at our office here in Stillwater, or I do a lot via Zoom. That's where I talk more about the devices and everything, and help the team try to feature match and figure out what devices that they want to trial with the individual. I do recommend that the speech therapist be a part of that. It helps just make the process more efficient. Some funders are going to want speech pathologist reports, so it's better if everybody is on the same board and is on the same track with that. Other members can also attend, so if the individual's in school, special education teachers, paras as well. And then in those demos, we try to narrow down a few different devices that you can check out from our short-term loan program. So best practice is to usually trial a minimum of 3 different language systems. And some insurances, like Sooner Care, they require that a minimum of 3 devices or 3 different language systems are trialed before they'll fund one. So if you're needing more information and support, reach out to Oklahoma Able Tech, whether it be for consultations, demos, devices, or trying to find a speech therapist in your area.
Very good information. Okay, Adam, here's a hard one. How do we ensure that accessibility tags carry from InDesign to PDF?
Okay, so this one's going to get a little bit in the weeds, but bear with me. I'm going to share my screen. I've got a example pulled up of a InDesign file for this. So let me turn that on there. Okay, so everybody should be able to see my screen now. Yes, thumbs up. Yep. Okay, so there's 2 main things that you have to do to enable your tags to carry over. The first is going to be to actually set the tag correctly in your paragraph styles. And to do that, you would set up your document, set up your paragraph styles as you're doing your document. And so, for example, I've got this first level heading here for this document. So I've got an H1 paragraph style set up for it. If I open up the paragraph style options for that, you'll notice that down here at the very bottom, there's a option for export tagging. And so that is where you're going to be able to tell the computer that anytime I use this paragraph style, assign it this tag. And there's only a few to choose from. The main ones that are going to get used are these H1 through H6 tags, and those are going to correspond to the different heading levels that you use throughout your document. The P tag stands for paragraph, and so you would use that for just any kind of general text tag that's not a heading. And then for the most part, everything else you're just going to leave automatic. You can ignore this H tag, and you can generally ignore this artifact tag as well. So once you have those set, you would just go through and set each of these different types of text to be a paragraph style. And then once you have that all ready, all that's going to do is set each of those paragraph styles to a specific tag type. But now we need to set the correct reading order of the document so that when you export it, the tags are all in the right order. And so to do that, we're going to use the articles panel. So in order to use the articles panel, you're going to select each item that needs to be in the reading order of the document and just drag it over to the articles panel. You don't have to worry about it messing up the visuals of your document. Nothing's going to move as long as you drag it and release it inside that actual articles panel. The first one you drag over, it's going to have you name the article. That doesn't matter. You can just hit OK. And you'll notice that it added that element to the list of articles. And so then you're going to just go through and in the correct reading order, keep adding elements to the list. And you would just do that for your entire document. One thing you need to make sure to do is inside this hamburger menu for the articles panel, there is this use for tagging order in tagged PDF option. You have to make sure that that is checked. Otherwise, it won't export the actual reading order of the articles panel. Once you do those two things, you're good to export, and it should export the tags correctly. Now, I will show you one more thing here is like when you actually go to export the file, you have two options to export your PDF. You have interactive and print. I always choose interactive no matter what type of document that I'm doing because it kind of is a catch-all where the print one will exclude any buttons or links or form fields, anything interactive that you have. And once you hit save, I'm going to change this so I don't override this file. It brings up your export options, and there's two check boxes down here that you need to make sure are checked, and that is for the create tagged PDF and use structure for tab order. So you would check both of those, and then when you export, it's going to pull everything that's in that articles panel into your tag tree in your PDF. There's a lot more to InDesign remediation and PDF remediation specifically. We do trainings on this kind of content all the time. Feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in any more kind of like a broad training program, or if you have specific questions, we do offer technical assistance on this kind of thing as well. I'll drop my email into the chat, and feel free to reach out to me directly through that, or we also have some digital accessibility resources available on our website that go into a lot of this in more depth.
Awesome. Okay, Weston does have a follow-up.
Sure.
In the paragraph styles,
Yes.
do the bullet points automatically export as a list tag?
Bullet point, yes. So let me go back and share my screen here. Let me go back to this, and I have one set up here. So for this paragraph style, I have a bullet style setup, and the export tagging for that would just need to be set to automatic. So yes, if you're using the bulleted list, bullets and numbering option inside the paragraph style to set up your lists correctly, which is how you should be doing it instead of like making it manually, then yes, as long as that's set to automatic, it should export lists pretty correctly.
Awesome. Okay, Kim. Say that I have applied to receive equipment from the reutilization program. Where are the pickup sites that I could retrieve that item from?
Primarily, that will be our Oklahoma City office where I am located, and that is our warehouse location. We are at, I can put our address in the chat if we want it, but we're in Oklahoma City. Occasionally, we are able to, when our program manager is traveling, she can take equipment back to Stillwater to be picked up. But normally, it would be here at our Oklahoma City office if you need to get the equipment.
Awesome. Stephanie, what is the most unique item that you guys have approved a loan for here recently?
Recently, we had the coolest loan request come in. It was for a gentleman in a wheelchair, and he and his wife rented a house, so they could not do actual home modifications to the house. So they bought a portable shower. So it is a waterproof box that he can roll into. It hooks up to the faucet, both in and then drains back into the sink. And he can shower himself, bathe himself, and maintain a lot of dignity. And it's a really cool piece of technology. And, I mentioned iPhones and Apple Watches. Some people have some very unique heart conditions that require constant monitoring. And I mean, we all have the technology on our Apple Watches now and to do that. But this particular individual needed help with financing for that. So if you can dream it up, we can probably finance it. We've had requests for someone with extreme anxiety and insomnia, and she needed new windows for her house because they let so much noise in. And she was approved by our board of directors for new windows for her house. So, I mean, the list just goes on and on. And feel free to contact me and we can talk about anything that you might need. What we won't approve is we don't pay for procedures. We don't pay for repairs. We don't pay for subscription services. So but we will pay for the actual AT device itself.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm actually going to ask and then answer this next question myself. I discussed it with our hearing AT specialist a little bit beforehand, and she gave me a really great list of resources. So one of the questions we received was, do you have recommendations for resources for hearing impaired individuals whose primary language is ASL? And the things that Shelley told me to recommend were the Oklahoma School for the Deaf, and then TSHA is a nonprofit in Oklahoma that provides comprehensive services to those with hearing loss. So if you Google TSHA Tulsa, they're the first couple of results that pop up. And then the Oklahoma Department of Rehabilitation Services also has a good list of AT and other resources for hearing and ASL specifically. And I will drop that in the chat. And hopefully that gives you a little bit more guidance as to some resources for hearing loss and ASL.
Payne, I also have some.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so as far as devices that we have in our loan inventory for individuals that are hearing impaired, we do have bed shakers for alarm clocks. We have weather alert radios that say the text on the radio. That way, living in Oklahoma, there are a lot of tornadoes and things like that. So that way you'll be safe. They have flashing receivers on them. We have flashing receivers that hook up to your doorbell or your phone for when it rings, but some phones you can just set it to turn on your flashlight. We do have pagers, and we also have webcams. If you maybe don't have the ability to FaceTime or Skype somebody on your phone, or you don't have a camera, we can let you borrow one of those, hook it up to your laptop or desktop, and go from there. And then resources outside of Oklahoma Able Tech. I spoke with a student at Oklahoma State recently who recommended some things. It's called Sorenson.com, Sorenson. It's a video chat with ASL interpreters. So there can be three-way video calls or more. That way, a signing individual could have basically a phone call with someone who is non-signing. And then another option is purplevrs.com. And they are open 24/7, 365. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Awesome. Thank you, Louise. Okay.
Actually, sorry, I have one more that I forgot. I didn't see it on my notes because I wrote it really small. A device that we have in our office that you can loan out is an Ubi Duo, which is kind of like PictoChat on the Nintendo DS. It's two little computers, and you type in what you're saying, and the text will pop up on both sides of the screen immediately, and you can have them hooked up and sit directly across from each other, or you can be a little bit further apart and disconnect the two devices and still see everything that they're saying in real time as they're typing it.
Awesome. Okay, this one is also for Louise. How many devices can I borrow at one time from Able Tech?
You can borrow up to 3 devices at once. There's not a limit on how many times you can use our program. So say there are 9 or 10 different devices that you think might help you, your student or patient. You can start with the first 3, see how that goes. And then once you return those, we'll get the next 3 over to you. Also, you can only, if you want to, you could do 1 device at a time or things like that.
Awesome. Okay, Adam, what is alt text and why does it matter?
Sure. So alt text is text that you basically attach to an image. And what it does is it provides meaning and context for those images for folks that may not be able to be able to see the image, right? And so typically the way that works is people will be using a piece of software called a screen reader that will actually read out the text that's available on a computer screen. And if a image does not have any alt text, then they are told that an image is there, but then not given any description as to what that image actually is. And so it's really important that you include alt text on every single meaningful image in your document or website for folks that are blind or low vision that won't be able to receive that content. Presumably you put that image on your website for a reason, and people need to know what that reason is. It also helps in certain situations, like if you have a slow internet connection and the image actually can't load, then the browser will display that text instead of the image. And so, even people who are sighted will still be able to get that information and know kind of what that image is. It's also used for different things like it's called SEO for your website, so that it helps you, like Google, be able to find your website easier. It's information that gets kind of tied into the back end side of things with that, but lots of different reasons for it. And again, like if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. Our resources cover that. Alt text is kind of it's more of a art form than a science, right? A lot of it comes down to the context of that image, whether the same image can be described multiple different ways depending on the context, right? So.
Awesome. And then alt text is a big topic of conversation right now, especially in the social media world. So all that I'm aware of, social platforms do have an option where you can add alt text to your images. So if that's something that you're interested in, you could also reach out to us and we can kind of help you with some of those things, because that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. Okay. And then this is the last question I actually have prepared. So now would be a great time for anybody to drop any follow-up questions into the Q&A. And then if we don't have any follow-up questions, we may just kind of open it up to the panelists to provide just a little more information about things that they maybe are asked pretty frequently. But Kim, if I have durable medical equipment that I am no longer using, how do I donate it to AbleTech?
There are several different ways. I can drop in the chat. We have drop-off locations all across the state. You can also fill out our donation form online. That will notify us via email, and then we'll give you a follow-up call. But we do pick up all across the state as well. We do get pretty booked up pretty far in advance, but yeah, you can drop off donations at any of our drop-off sites. They're on our website, primarily, again, our Oklahoma City office, the Stillwater office. We have locations in Tulsa, Enid, Shawnee, Owasso, all over the state. And then, as I said, we do pick up as well. We can also, for smaller supplies and equipment, such as like CPAPs, things like that, we can send you a return label and you can just ship it back to us at no cost to you. You just have to provide the box for it. And yeah, that's kind of various ways we can put donations.
Awesome. Now, are there any things that you don't accept as far as donations?
Yes, so we don't do anything with oxygen concentrators or oxygen tanks. There's no way for us to really refurbish those, and there's also no way for us to properly dispose of those. So we can't do anything with oxygen. We can't take things like hospital bed mattresses. And then there are a few larger items like hospital beds you might see like from an actual hospital that are in one piece. We can't break that down. We don't have a way to get that back to us. But we take most everything. But yeah, I think primarily just things that we can't really clean and refurbish, such as mattresses and oxygen tanks.
Okay, perfect. Well, I will give our attendees just a few minutes to drop any last minute questions into the chat. And then if anybody has anything on the panel that they'd like to add, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I do. So sometimes I do get asked like who assistive technology is for, and it is primarily for individuals with disabilities or the aging population. But I talked about this with one of my program managers the other day. She has hearing loss and wears hearing aids, and she doesn't identify as an individual with a disability. So I feel like some people don't think that these things are for them, but it can be. We have students who come in that don't have debilitating conditions or anything like that, but sometimes they struggle with activities of daily living. We have things that can help you. It doesn't have to be, I don't know, severe. So we can help anybody. And on my end of the program, I do not need any like prescriptions or proof or anything like that. We just want to let people know that this technology exists. We're here to help.
I want to jump in there with just like a little, extra nugget that goes along with that. Current estimates right now in the United States are that 1 in 4 people have a disability, and that number tends to just blow people's minds. There are a lot more people with disabilities than most people think or understand. Not all of them are visible disabilities, right? A lot of them are invisible, or like Louise said, people may have needs and do not self-identify as having a disability, but they would still qualify for all of our services. So.
Very, very true. Okay, Stephanie dropped a question for us in the chat, and it says, is there a preferred contact for the more rare equipment or device assistance needs that may be too difficult to source? So Stephanie, I'm going to ask a little bit of clarification. Are you talking like you're looking for recommendations as far as where to find assistive technology or durable medical equipment that maybe we don't have in our inventory? Yes. Okay, very cool. So I'm going to throw this one to Kim and Louise. Do you guys have a list of recommended vendors that you can kind of help people with?
Yeah, hi Stephanie, thanks to see you here. We email together sometimes. I do have a resource list. I'm not completely versed with like the preferred vendors on that list. And again, I believe if you were here earlier in the webinar, if the client is grant eligible through one of our grant partnerships, we can totally assist with that. It does take a little bit of time sometimes to process the grant applications and get that equipment ordered. But I do have a resource list I'd be happy to share with you guys of vendors and other programs that are more likely to have this equipment readily available for purchase.
And while she's doing that, hi Stephanie. So we don't have a preferred contact list ready to go on our end of the assistive technology side. But what we would do is get with you, figure out what is that you're looking for, and then from there we would contact our partners and the people that we purchased assistive technology from, and then kind of get a feel out and then relay that information back to you.
Perfect. Okay, Avery, I have one more question for you that I forgot to ask. How do I motivate my child or student to use their AAC device?
Yes. So no matter what the age of the individual is, we want to find what's motivating for them and what they want to communicate about. So first, just find what's motivating for them. Whether it's a play activity with our adults, maybe it's something that they're no longer able to do, like go to a coffee shop and talk about their favorite hobbies, talk with their families. But we want to find what motivates that individual and then introduce that device and words or phrases that they might use in those different environments. We want to tease apart whether they're having difficulty using the device or whether they're just not motivated to use the device, and we need to find something there to motivate them. We helped some grad students here last year do an AAC eval for a little boy, and they had a lot of fun activities prepared, but he just wasn't having it that day. So we brought in this ball popper that was switch adapted that he could activate via switch, and there's balls flying everywhere with the ball popper, and it completely turned the evaluation around. He started activating the device and being more interested in that so he could request and comment about the activity. So really find what motivates that individual. You can put what motivates them out of reach or in a container where they have to, use some more different vocabulary to request it or make comments about it. You can use sensory activities, so they might like to be moved if they're in a wheelchair, or sensory swings or ball pits. Even if it seems silly, try it. If that's what motivates them, then we need to just find some words that we can use and model for them. You can use voice activated toys. So we have a Bluebee Pal. So it is a speaker that is linked up via Bluetooth. You can link this up with your iPad via Bluetooth, and then it can communicate and speak out what the device is saying. So that's super motivating for some of our super young individuals. Oh, he didn't talk, he moved his mouth, but it would do that sound out loud. So we have different animals with those. You can also do Alexa devices. So with the clinic as well, we helped an individual in his 30s. He really loved using his Google Home, and he wanted to say that it could, or wanted to tell it to play Miranda Lambert. So we hooked up his communication device there to the Google Home or Alexa, and it was able to play that. So just another thing, helping them figure out what they're not able to do and communicate. Provide them with access to words they aren't able to communicate and on that device. We want to avoid frequent testing. So we don't want to say, where's the apple? What color is this? We want to make it very motivating and fun for them and not test them the whole time that they're using the device. And then we want to use a wide range of communication intent. So not just requesting, but commenting, protesting, making jokes, our greetings, our farewells. So not just limiting to one type of communication intent. And then lastly, we want to model the language on the device. So sometimes it takes individuals a while to use the device. It's very dependent on the individual, but communication partners such as parents, teachers, even siblings can activate on the device and model for them. So whenever we're going outside, an individual could activate go on the device and say, we're going to go, and model that language throughout the day for them. So modeling is super important and something we can do throughout the day using the device.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I do think that is the end of our questions, either in our Q&A chat or from the registration form. So it looks like we're going to be out of here just a few minutes early, but I want to thank our panelists so much for entertaining this idea. You all are such a great wealth of knowledge, and I super appreciate you every day that we get to work together. And thank you to our attendees for being here, for asking questions, for wanting to learn. Wanting to learn is the first step, and every step makes the world just a little bit more accessible. So I'll send a follow-up email here in the next day or so that has all of the links that we dropped in the chat. So you don't have to worry about downloading the chat transcript or anything like that. I will gather these up and send them out so everybody has access to them. But that's all I've got. Thank you all so much for spending the last hour with us, and we hope to see you at our next event.